Hey Alex, how's it going? This is Derek here. I just finished watching your video, and I gotta say that you nailed so many points home, man. And it was almost like some of my private messages between other YouTubers. You got a hold of some of them because, like your Halloween points, the thing about the backstory on Halloween, that is my exact point on why I didn't care for that movie. You know, it's like they didn't just do it with Michael Myers. They did it with Leatherface and Jason as well. They turned them all into like either they had no parents, they were discarded. You know, poor mama's boy left all alone. They gave their characters those characters. They made us empathetic. You know, like oh the poor guy. I don't want to feel sorry for him. He's supposed to be a badass slasher. He's not supposed to be someone I feel like, if only society would have understood. No, man. So yeah, that whole, broken home scenario just it didn't it explained a lot. It it sure it gave it a backstory and Rob Zombie added his little twist to everything, but I'm with you on that one. I liked it better that the Michael Myers that I knew came from what seemed to be a pretty decent home, an average suburban home. Parents looked well rounded, they're well dressed. When they met up with him on the front porch and he was all dazed with a knife in his hand, they're just like, oh, what's going on here? And they looked like parents who cared, out for the evening, who loved each other. So where did the evil come from? We don't know. So that's what kept me gripped about Michael Myers was that he had an evil brewing in him. How long had that evil been growing? How long before it finally snapped? Well, apparently when he was like 8, I guess. But were there any telltale signs before that? We don't know. And that's what kept me intrigued. You explain everything away, you strip away the mystery of it all, then it's just like, oh, all right, on to the next one, I guess. And it's like, then the remake of Halloween spawned a sequel, and that made less sense. It just blew everything all over the place with their horses and spirits of dead mothers. It got like really ridiculous. Not only that, but I think every movie, especially if it spawns sequels, every movie has to have someone we cheer for. Evil Dead has Ash. Okay, that's our hero. Phantasm has Reggie, the ultra cool ice cream vendor. Okay, uh, he was a constant in all the Phantasm movies. Um, I think we need that character there. We need and for me in Halloween, up to a certain point, of course, because God rest him, he left this earth. But it was Dr. Loomis. Dr. Loomis was our hero. He was the anti-Michael. Okay, he was hip to what this guy was all about. He was the one that went out and hunted him down and chased him around and damn near lost his own life trying to kill him and so on and so forth. So what did the remakes do? Well, the remakes turned that character into someone I really didn't care for. And by the sequel of the remake, by Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie, Dr. Loomis was just an out and out jagoff who just wanted to make money selling books. I wanted him dead already. I was kind of tired of him. So just kind of ruined it for me. That was my thing about the Halloween remakes. And like you, I don't fault anybody for liking them. If you're a fan of a certain director and you like his work, regardless of what he does, then that's totally your deal. I'm a fan of Don Coscarelli. A lot of people may not like his movies, but I like them. Bubba Hotep, I like him because it's a Don Coscarelli movie. I can't say I would like the movie as much if it wasn't directed by Don Coscarelli. So there you go. But you made the best the best comparison for remakes. I mean, of all the ones I've ever tried to make, I tried to compare it to a dinner that gets made one too many times. You have 30 dinners for for a 31-day month, and one of those dinners is going to get remade. You know, maybe add a little something to it to make it different, but something's going to get made again. But yours is the best. The jury duty analogy, that was perfect. You hear it's coming, then you forget about it, and then you get that letter in the mail, and you're like, oh, no. That's exactly what it is. You're absolutely right. I heard about a Hellraiser remake 2-3 years ago. Heard about it. Now it sounds like it's coming to pass real soon, and everyone's kind of like, oh no. I'd say any good horror movie, any really good horror movie that made its money back in the day is gonna get remade. There's no way out of it. My only thing about remakes now is how fast they're coming out. It's like they're remaking movies that aren't even 10 years old anymore. And that to me is kind of like, wait a minute, you're doing this way too fast, man. I mean, think about the time it took to remake Night of the Living Dead. 1967 compared to what, 1990? That's a good 20 years, 23 years right there. But now it's coming out like one after another after another. Also, when you mentioned that they remade Nightmare on Elm Street, I have yet to see that one. I'm not in any rush to see it. But now that they've made both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, do you think somewhere down the line they're going to remake Freddy vs. Jason? Just a thought. But, yeah, it just doesn't surprise me, doesn't shock me, doesn't even anger me anymore. It doesn't. The first time they made a remake and people were against it, that's when they should have burned Hollywood to the ground. And then the studios will say, well, we'll never do that again, because look how irate everyone got. But if they made their money back on that remake, then it either shows one of 2 or 3 things. Either the old school horror fans aren't going to the movies as much as the new horror fans are going, or we're empowering the new horror fans to go to the movies more than we get to go, because that's what they read is the box office receipts. And if it made its money, then there you are. You know, it's gonna be done. I mean, mark my words, I haven't heard of a remake yet, but I know with all the movies that have been coming out lately, original or not, Exorcist is bound to be remade sometime soon. I personally haven't heard anything on it. Maybe it's already been announced and I don't know about it. But with The Exorcism of Emily Rose and The Last Exorcism, the original Exorcist, the grand mammy of them all, you know that's going to get remade. I think it'll be a little too clean, a little too sterile. Another thing about remakes that I'm not a big fan of, that I can honestly say I'm not a big fan of, is the caliber of star that they use in it. Because that just tells you they're trying to attract people by the star power that they use in it, by the names that they're using in the movie. Okay, when they made Dawn of the Dead, who was in it that everybody said, hey, that's so-and-so from, or, oh, that's a person on, no, that I don't remember anybody saying anything like that. Friday the 13th, when it first came out, did anyone know that was Kevin Bacon in the movie? I didn't. I had no clue. I was just some youngster who liked horror movies. Did anyone say, hey, he was in Animal House? No, nobody said that. But now, they come out with these stars, and they're people that I personally really don't know, but my kids, they know them. Oh, that's so-and-so from Seventh Heaven, and that's a person from Dawson's Creek. He's on the WB. That girl's from Nickelodeon. Oh, brother. So, it just goes to prove what the motivation behind making these movies are. Back then, we didn't have the big time effects that they have now. and everything's all CGI'd to death and more advanced and more realistic looking. So they polish it, they repackage it with new names, and they ship it off to the younger crowd. The one good point that's been made to me so far about remakes is that if a remake comes out, and I didn't even think about this before, and I'm gonna have to give credit down below for who gave me this, because right off the top of my head I can't remember. But they mentioned that because, well, the Fright Night remake, they're saying, well, maybe now that it's being remade, maybe Fright Night 2 will get released on DVD. I didn't think about that. Usually when there's a remake of a movie, someone somewhere will release the original on DVD and make it available. So in that sense, there's some movies that I'm kind of pushing to see a remake just to see an official DVD release. Movies like Curtains. You know, if someone wanted to go ahead and remake that, and then someone come out and release the original Curtains on DVD or Blu-ray, that'd be awesome. If that's what it takes, I would rather just see these reissued and put out without the use of a remake. But if that's, like I said, if that's what it takes, then okay, we can put up with that for a little while. Let the youngsters have their fun. You know, we'll stay at home and watch the originals. And that was really interesting to hear about your dad. That's probably the first time I've ever heard someone from the previous generation getting upset about a remake. Because my mom, when she saw or when she heard about House on Haunted Hill, she saw the original in the theaters when she was younger, and she said it scared the living daylights out of her. To be honest, there were a couple of scenes in there that kind of scared me too, and I'm talking when I was a teenager, so it had its effective moments. The blind woman was the one that creeped me out. I was just watching it one night and I was kind of dozing off, and then that blind woman scene came in and I was like, oh jeez, tried to turn off the TV real fast. But when she heard there was a remake, she didn't really catch on to the fact that there was a remake to it. She thought it was the original. I'm like, no, man, it's a remake. They redid it. They reshot the whole thing. But she didn't say, how could they do that to such a classic? How could they? I mean, there's a lot of movies that have been retold and redone and remade under different titles. I don't know. I just, I say, like you say, you know, if they're good, I'll watch them. They're never going to be, I mean, well, I can't even say they won't be as good as the original. They'll just never take the place of the original. Okay? If I'm a fan of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm also a fan of the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the remake does not cancel out the original, not by a long shot. There's no way I could ever say, oh man, forget the original. This is better. This is the one right here. I can't do that. Can't. It's the original is an awesome movie. It's raw, gritty. They did a lot with very little. As brutal as that movie is, as brutal as it is, even the title is brutal. Chainsaw Massacre. There's a nut running around with a chainsaw. And they're putting people on hooks. And they're cutting people up in their wheelchairs. With all that said and done, there's really no gore in that movie. Hardly any blood in that movie, if any. I think the most blood is when he's cutting himself in the van. But look how effective it was. Look how it got into the mind and just messed with you. You know? So the original couldn't get away with, I mean, the remake couldn't get away with that. They had to throw in the face being ripped off and the brains being blown out the back of the head and all that other wet, gooey stuff. You know, it had to do that. It couldn't get away with that like the original could. The original had that gritty, raw feel to it, man. The original Halloween. Seriously. How much blood was really in that? Think about it. From the first kill where he kills his sister, you see the knife going at her. But do you see any blood flying all over the walls or running all over? Do you see her guts falling out of her stomach? No. Do you see the knife stuck in her? Not really. Girl gets choked with the phone cord. Another guy gets run through the chest with a knife and stuck to the wall. But we don't see any feet kicking. We don't see any blood anywhere. Just stuck to the wall. And our mind does the rest. So I don't think it was until, well, we've had some gory stuff during that time, but I think they were treading kind of lightly on certain points. But I don't know. I'll ask you this: if it came right down to it, would you rather have a decent remake of one of your favorite movies? Would you rather have a sequel, a half-assed sequel, because they've come out with plenty of those, for one of your favorite movies? Or would you rather have a movie that has to use the same formula other movies use because just about everything's been done already? Zombies, vampires, cannibals, what have you. Would you rather see an original movie be made, but just not as good as, say, the remake of an original would have been? You got those three choices. You got a decent remake, a half-assed sequel, or a not so very good original. Which one would you choose? Because as far as the American movie market goes, I don't know, man. Their originals are not really living up to it. Okay, the original stuff is all stuff that's probably been done before and done to death, and they need to find new ways of doing it. And I mean, do it good, Romantic vampires is not the way to go. Next thing you know, they're going to make romantic zombie movies, and I can't have that. That's just out. It's not going to happen. It's bad. Just thinking about it makes my toes hurt. But I really appreciate your comments, man. They're very, very cool, very, very well put. Can't argue any of those points. They're just very, very good. So I thank you again. And as far as the shout out and yourselves, man, it's more than my pleasure. Just really think your channel is really awesome, and look forward to more back and forth like this. I really enjoy this. So it wasn't really back and forth because we're kind of in agreement, really, you and I. So it's not a back and forth. It's just comparing notes. So, but like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to make the video. And no, it wasn't boring at all. Not at all. It had me entertained from start to finish, especially the jury duty part. That was great. That was absolutely great. So I hope everything went well with your daughter and daycare, and hope everything goes good for you on your third shift at work. So you take care, man, and thanks again. Be talking to you soon.